management is the most important, because EPC projects are high risk business. If you don't manage the risks well, how good your process system, you will collapse. And that could be one of the reasons in India not many companies become grown in EPC sector. Right. Very few are there. Very few are sustaining for a long period of time.
Hello everyone, I am Sandesh, co-founder of Venwiz, where we are solving a long vexing problem of engineering project delays, especially in the manufacturing and EPC space. Our mission is to transform project procurement efficiency via AI-led decision making. Welcome to another episode of the ProSquare podcast, a thought leadership series with actionable insights from industry leaders. In this episode, we have Mr. Sanjib Dutta from L&T. Welcome, Sanjib. I just wanted to know how your journey has been over the past few years and over your career spanning 26 plus years, right?
Well, good afternoon, Sandesh. See, I am a civil engineer and I joined Larsen & Toubro in the year 1999 after completing my master's degree from IIT Delhi on construction ecology and management. And since then, I am kind of uninterrupted service to this great organization, L&T. And my journey is very much related to, I can say, India's infrastructure growth story. I started my career in a Delhi Metro project, which is the very first phase of Delhi Metro project, and then went on to have a long career span in a highway sector. We all know that how Golden Quadrilateral and then the other phases like Bharatmala has happened over the last 20-25 years. So as part of that journey of the highway sector, for a long period of time. And then I also being part of that flagship dedicated freight corridor projects. I personally was bidded those projects and went on to execute one of the packages of 5,000 crore. So if you see from this sector perspective in transportation infra, I hopefully has covered everything. Metros, roads, highways, railways, and by virtue of my experience in bidding, I've been covered some of the airport projects also.
That's great.
If I summarize my 26 years, cuts across various category of infrastructure, transportation infrastructure particularly, and functionally from execution, planning, project management, contract management, business development, tendering, and supply chain management.
Wow.
That's the summary of my career till date.
That's a good diverse experience.
You can say it's a diverse experience and it adds perspective, honestly,
right.
Because when you have a diverse experience, your perspective also become broadened.
Right. It's interesting you talk about the Delhi Metro project and the Golden Quadrilateral Highway project, right? Because these are some of the things when I started my journey into project management, these were some of the case studies that I had read a lot, right? So I believe these were during your initial days of your career, right? And now you're also part of the high-speed rail project, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project, right? So if you look into the past and see how the project execution and project procurement has transformed over these years, right? How would you see that?
See, when I see the project EPC business and when I see about this procurement as a function or so-called supply chain management, I believe from the year 1999 to till date, one of the very important structural shift happened is project size and complexity and the scalability. When I started my career in a Delhi Metro projects, if I'm not wrong, that was a 25 crore project. 25 crore is the value of the project. When I talk about an high-speed rail, it is a 25,000 crore project, single project of 25,000 crore. When I talk about dedicated freight corridor, each project is not less than 5,000 crore.
Yeah.
So once the scale comes into anything, in an EPC space particularly, it becomes far more complex as a game. And we all know in an EPC space, for any EPC company, of your cost structure, 70 to 80% of your cost structure is in the hands of procurement team. Now, within procurement space in EPC, there is another dimension which is not prevalent possibly in a manufacturing sector, that is the subcontracting or the service contract. You have a material component as a procurement which is available across all sectors.
Right.
But when you talk about the subcontracting or a service contract, it is predominantly large in an EPC space.
True.
And when the scale complexity plus subcontracting comes, the risk profile changes in a procurement function.
Okay.
And I believe the change which has happened is how good your risk management process in your procurement plays a very big role. Remember, you are dictating 75 to 80% of your cost of a project, cost of a business. By taking a wrong step, not only it will add cost, it will delay project and completely change the profile of a risk.
I agree. In fact, when you talk about the scale and complexity, right, one of the statistics that we usually at Venwiz talk about is in FY24, there's a project pipeline that's for the next 7-year project pipeline, right? It's worth roughly about 143 lakh crores. Right? And the 7 years previous to that, it's just about 67 lakh crores. So it has completely doubled, right? So now to manage this sort of scale and complexity, right? Of course, every function needs to transform. Have you seen the procurement function also transform accordingly? And what were some of the key hurdles or things that you see are still prevalent in the procurement function?
I will straightway given some of the examples from the high-speed rail projects. As I said, each package 25,000 crore. You can imagine the kind of number of vendors required to execute such a project.
Right.
When you talk about a project of 100 crore versus a 25,000 crore, imagine a 100 crore project, you can still take a risk of putting 3 vendors to do activity. On a 25,000 crore, you need so many number of vendors doing the activity. Otherwise, you cannot, because there is a capacity constraint in the country itself.
Correct.
You can't just leave it all kind of things, one activity, even if the specialized vendor is the best in the lot, your risks could be very lowered by giving the best. But that don't address the time dimensions of a procurement, because you have to finish the time and that vendor might not have the capacity to do it. So vendor diversification is one of the potential area. You can go abroad to bring agencies. For example, in bullet train, as I said, that when you start doing those projects, our first challenge was some high-end automated full-scale molds. Molds are nothing but shuttering for a superstructure.
Okay.
In bullet train, it is the first time in India you are supposed to construct a single span, 40-meter span girder. Now, in India, it has never happened that a single 40-meter span girder being casted in a precursed yard. So, very high-end automated molds operating on a hydraulic jacks to do those things. Now, at that point of time in 2021, when you got the job, the Chinese are the biggest monopoly in this product line, because China has got the largest number of bullet train corridors, high-speed rail corridors. So and also China is well ahead in manufacturing. So the normal choice would have been gone and get it from a China, but at the same time, the kind of scale or the number of molds requirement is so high to complete the project in time. Only China sourcing will not work out, because you don't have so many capacity also in China to give in a shorter period of time of 6 to 8 months.
It's also becoming difficult now with importing from
So
China.
what we could have done is that we search who are the aspirational guy in this space of mold fabrication. Because who wanted to grow, who take this as an opportunity to grow themselves. And when you talk about the aspect of Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is in sync.
Correct.
Because today in one corridor, if you develop these vendors from India, it will be a game changer for your future bullet train corridors. Already Government of India declared 7 corridors of high-speed rail, right? And we exactly did the same thing. Eventually, we land up 30% of our mold requirement from a Chinese, 70% from India. And trust me and believe me, the way the mold has functioned, everybody certified, the Indian vendors has made it much better in terms of operations as compared to a Chinese vendor.
Wow.
And I believe it is one of the best risk mitigation measures we took in the procurement for a scalable project, where the conventional solution could be go and get it from China. By this process, we develop a vendor base. The vendors has also gone up the value chain, and I'm pretty sure in future when the corridors come, your 30% Chinese may not be required.
Okay.
Because there are so many people have been developed by this time.
Right.
This is one example of item. There are plethora of such examples in bullet train, where India's capacity has been augmented. India's supply chain capacity to construct such high-speed rail has augmented. Bearing is another area where a lot of vendors has been developed And I'm sure that future corridors won't have this supply chain crisis out of those items.
Okay. So Sanjib, I'm curious about one aspect of project execution, right? How does the top leadership look at the strategic risks, or whenever a new project like the high-speed rail comes for execution? How do they take decisions? You have also been in the top management, right? Say something as critical as vendors not available in India is a risk, right? So how do you look at that while addressing the project or planning for the project?
I think, as I said that as far as risks is concerned, of course, during the pre-bid process itself, you identify the risks, you plot what could be the potential mitigation measures, what are the possible mitigation measures, and as I said one such example of de-risking from Chinese dependency. For all such activity of procurement function, you have to first look whether, because in such kind of projects, sometimes customer also give the number of vendors. Now the first thing what one should do, if customer has given a few set of vendors in the contract document, I think ideally you should raise the pre-bid risks right at before the bidding stage. If you anticipate those 3 vendors listed for an item is not adequate for the project delivery, you should sensitize customer at the pre-bid stage, saying this 3 is not adequate, you need few more vendors. So you should be very proactive in your procurement function in a project of scale, complexity and size. Because if you are not acting proactively and start become reactive, then it's a problem.
So yeah, I understand that this is mostly, of course, it's an important part of the project is risk mitigation, right? You are identifying risks in a project and then trying to address them. How do you think the support functions or the support system for the procurement function has evolved, right? Is there enough support that's still there for the teams to manage this sort of scale and complexity?
So one thing I can tell you very clearly on the procurement function in a EPC space, it is no more in the realms of only a commercial background persons to lead this function, or rather the team members should not be only aware of the commercial parts. Gone are those days 20 years back when you can put a person of that they are not an engineer, they are not technical person. But today, I feel in a EPC space, EPC project management space, it has to be led and the team will comprise of technical people. It is a techno-commercial function, is the first shift. So you need people who are engineering, who understand what is the product all about. Because many of these products in EPC are engineered products. You just cannot go by one-dimension approach that I know the commercial terms and conditions, I know the price, and I give the order. If you do not understand the product, you will be potentially going to face lot of disputes during execution phase. This is first challenge. The second challenge is that it has to be a very collaborative approach, because many of these items needs your design team's involvement before you start procurement and taking the decision of whom you are awarding.
Correct.
You need to bring design team on board. You need to bring construction methods team on board. Sometimes you have to bring the quality team on board because the specifications is defined in the contract. Sometimes you have to bring the safety people also. In some of the launching equipments procurement, if you don't build the safety features, if you don't embed the product with the safety features, there could be accident.
Correct.
So it has to be very collaborative approach. And as a procurement person, you should have that connect to all the departments of the organization to bring them on board when the RFQ process is going on. If you are not bringing them on board, possibly your technical documents is not foolproof.
Okay.
Technical documents may not cover many things. And potential lead to dispute, litigation during execution. You may say that the product should have these safety features. The safety person comes later period of time, who was not involved, may come, sir, this is high risk element. Then you ask the vendor, you inbuild that risk, safety features. He said, I have a price for that.
Yeah.
I'm not considered. It will lead to dispute. So apart from one, understand the whole thing, apart from commercial conditions and price, and then if you understand the essence of the product, then you always understood who could be my people to be consulted now as a collaborative process.
Right.
And thereby you make it more foolproof, holistic proposal.
Got it.
And I think that is a change you need. Otherwise, it will be for a procurement in an EPC business, it will be a high risk otherwise.
Okay. So, sir, from Venwiz point of view, right, we work with a lot of EPC organizations as well. And when I talk to the senior management there, right, they identify these problems that are there in procurement and execution. So I ask them, when you know that these problems are there, what's the hurdle in solving them? Right, so I get different answers. What's your take on that? I mean, we know the problems, but why aren't we implementing a solution?
I think when you talk about Venwiz and whenever you talk about digitalization and so-called all these modern technological parts, whether it's an AI, ML application, other thing, I believe this is one function where in EPC space or EPC business, transformational things can happen. When you talk about a digital making a business transformation, I feel the first function to attack is procurement. Okay. Because it is to be built on a data driven. You just cannot take procurement decisions just because of intuitions.
Yeah.
Until and unless your entire decision making process is highly data driven, you will possibly land up in a big mess, big problem. Be it identification of a right vendor, bringing the right vendor on board itself is a risk mitigation for a procurement.
Yeah.
Now, how did you do that? You can think that I have a good relation with this vendor, so I bring it. But that's more of intuition.
Yeah.
That is not backed by data.
Correct.
And that is why a platform like Venwiz, we are working on so-called AI, ML based application and digital platform comes into play.
True.
It will give you a big ammunition for any procurement people to take data-driven decisions, whether it's vendor sentiment analysis, whether it's bringing a right vendor to mitigate your risk, or for that matter, searching a new vendor, discover a new vendor which you do not know. And of course, one more important element which possibly not many Indian companies in procurement is still doing, we still realize too many, our entire peer-to-peer process still very much manual, still very much email based rather than a platform based. Because you do email based, the buyer which is there with your system might not be there up to 2 years down the line.
True.
And your subcontracting proposal spans over a longer period, unlike material procurement, which comes and goes. But when you talk about the service subcontracting contracts, it generally hovers more than a year time frame at which you are married to that agency.
Yeah.
Now, your buyer has left by this time. You wanted to search, you can't search mails, right? For the entire archive of communication, how it has evolved, how the price has been discovered, what are the assumptions might have gone, which might not have been captured but is in form of an email. Because it's vulnerable, because it will prone to human judgment errors.
Yeah.
So it's essential that you make it completely RFQ process, a foolproof platform based, keep 5 years down the line, you go to the folder, get all the data related to that procurement. Even for while you collaborate with your design team, their communication with the vendor should be also captured.
Correct.
If you captured, you know the basis. Today it is very much individual driven.
Yeah.
But once you become the peer-to-peer process completely automated, I'm pretty sure that it will add lot of robustness in the entire procurement process, adds more transparency. So I feel that is where companies like Venwiz should come and collaborate with the EPC companies, be it a peer-to-peer full automation, bringing a right vendor, doing a vendor sentiment analysis, discover a new vendor from any geography, and add the vendor base for this particular sector to thrive.
Yeah. It's actually very exciting you say this, sir, because that's what we are trying to do, especially focused on vendor engagements, right? Today in most companies, vendor engagements are still manual, mail-based or person-dependent, as you rightly said. If we try to digitize that, have that in a single place, that forms as a feedback loop to your execution process also, right? And that's where what we call the end-to-end data-driven decision-making using AI or ML or any other platforms, right? That's where it helps a lot. And one thing I've realized talking to a lot of procurement leaders is that everybody wants to complete projects on time, right? It's the KPI for the entire organization. But it so happens that the supporting systems, right, they are not geared up to handle the complexity and the speed that the procurement teams are being asked to deliver on, right? And I remember very recently, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh said that, defense, not even one single defense project is on time. That clip became very viral.
Yeah, true.
Right. I think, yes, he was talking about the defense industry, but probably that struck a chord with most of the industry folks.
Infrastructure also, to a large extent.
Right. If you try to structure what problems, the systemic problems, right, that the procurement function is facing currently, that we really need to address to, right? What, in your opinion, could they be? Maybe top three.
Yeah, of course, I'll again go back and tell you the risk management is the most important, because EPC projects are high risk business. If you don't manage the risks well, how good your process system, you will collapse. And that could be one of the reasons in India not many companies become grown in EPC sector. Right. Very few are there. Very few are sustaining for a long period of time. That is one very important element I think is necessary in this EPC space. Second, today, as I again saying, when the platforms and so much technology in place, you should obsess with data. Everything should be data. Because if you have a data infrastructure in place, and if you convert this into a digital form, then the next level of things should come, that is the analytics part. Now, procurement is such a function where I personally feel predictive analytics plays a very, very large role.
Okay.
Because whether it's a price point movement or for that matter, vendors' behavior analysis, there are many areas where analytics comes into play, and many of them are predictive analytics. Now, to do that, first you need data, then you should need a platform. Once you convert everything in digital, analytics is a much easier thing to do.
Correct.
I think the industry has to go in that direction as far as procurement function is concerned, where a lot of analytics can be done. And I will say that one step ahead of doing that, can you simulate a negotiation meeting?
Interesting.
Can you simulate a negotiation meeting and come prepared for that? Having all the data and thereby going to a meeting makes the deal very different for a procurement person. You can do that simulation and come back, and I think AI can help in that regard. I think the technology person can work on this kind of idea to say that can a negotiation meeting be simulated, and thereby possibly add a lot of value on the table.
Okay. We'll try our best to work on probably such a solution. Now, coming back to one of the important points that, or should I say KPIs that the procurement team has in a project is cost reduction, right? And generally there is a tendency to just look at the buying cost, right? Where I know you also come from a technical background, and earlier you said there needs to be a lot more technical knowledge with the procurement people as well, right? Now there is buying cost versus total cost of ownership. How do you see procurement teams, or what advice would you give to navigate this space, the cost?
I think I missed out on the last question, that this could be the third bucket.
Okay.
The reason is, as a procurement person, never see standalone cost. That's absolutely a wrong way, especially for an engineering company, engineering procurement, where there are interdependencies. You must always take decision on your total cost basis.
Okay.
Never ever on a standalone, that's proposal cost. I'll give you two examples, a very simple example. We finalized on stay-cable bridge proposal. Basically, it's a very long span bridge. You see, there are only two foundations within the sea.
Correct.
So your span can be more, thereby the cables come.
Okay.
So in a stay-cable bridge, there are certain interdependencies kind of thing. Like if I using a higher strength of cable, you might optimize something else. You have to see that part A stay-cable component, which is your proposal component as a supply chain person to see, and a B component called the civil component. If the A plus B is coming least, you should adopt that method.
Okay.
And you have to do that method. I think it is very, very essential, because, and sometimes you have to possibly do this system will reduce your operation maintenance cost also. Because if nowadays what has happened, many of the project has a long defect liability period, 5 years, 10 years. Now, when you are married to a project where the defect liability period is so large, you have to see from that perspective, your operation maintenance cost of using a system should not be such that it offsets the initial cost for that.
Correct.
So again, that's an angle of a total cost to see.
Correct.
So it is always advisable to see the total cost rather than a standalone cost.
And I think in instances like these, the vendor engagements also become very important, right? Because especially in project procurement, you are partnering with a vendor for a very long time. During execution as well as post execution once you commission the equipment or any other thing. And it really becomes important that both of you are delivering, the organization as well as the vendor partner. They have to deliver in a high pressure environment, right? So it becomes that important, the engagements. Right?
I think supply chain relationship management will be very, very important because at the end of the day, as a procurement professional, you should connect to the topmost members of all this organization, especially for your strategic and high value proposals vendors.
Okay.
Because you need to build a relation over a period of time and they should be part and parcel of your problem. It is not that the whole relationship is so transactional that you give, you take and then you run. I believe as a function, procurement should be seen more of a strategic function rather than a transactional function. In EPC space, still that aspect is still there, that it is still seen as a very transactional and not very strategic. I believe that shift is very much required because you can't do your budget exercise and then ask the procurement person to tell that I need this much of PAT this year. You bring them up front. Similarly, to make it strategic function, you need to divide your vendor base again into two parts. Who are your partners and who are your suppliers? Define your criteria. Come up with a clear-cut process. In fact, we have started doing that currently in our organization, vendor profiling. We profiling based on certain criteria and evaluation parameters, some weightage has been given, and we started thinking of an annual award function.
Oh, nice.
By rating them as platinum, gold, silver, bronze.
Okay.
This will help us to also bring that data into place.
Yeah.
When you talk about vendor evaluation criteria or vendor rating, this profiling and thereby the award system possibly help to build the data today and can be used in the form of some analytics in the future when you choose the vendor.
I agree.
So we need, through the process you decide who are your suppliers, who are your partners, and thereby make them more of your part of your journey.
Got it.
And then you can very well say that these are guys strategic partners with us. They will be there always with us. They may come with you in the pre-bid itself and continue to in the post-bid.
Got it. I think that's a very important point you make, Sanjib, because we see big organizations, right, be it in manufacturing or EPC, they have this investment into vendor engagements. But when you see smaller EPCs or standalone EPC companies, right, or even manufacturing companies, they miss that trick. Right? Engaging with a vendor for over a long time as a partner really gives you that advantage in the long run.
And they will also understand your requirement, right? They may also add value. When you talk about total cost, they may come up with some innovations. And they may say this is an innovation which will help you your total cost to reduce.
Correct.
So the dialogue will be much more strategic than transactional.
Correct.
It's not that I'm giving a price and you do. You may come up and tell that you do this thing, you may add up more value. So I think it's very important.
One of the key gaps that we see when we are working with our customers is a vendor understanding what the buyer wants, right? And a buyer understanding what the vendor capabilities are, right? Once that understanding is clear, I think it becomes pretty easy in terms of assessing if the partner is the right partner or not, right? And that's where I think both the parties need to invest a lot of time. I agree with you. So Sanjib, over your career, you have been part of some transformational projects, not just theoretically, but on the ground as well, right? Could you give some more examples or any case studies that really made an impact for you as a person and for the organization?
I feel that my very first experience in Delhi Metro comes into play there. You all know Mr. E. Sridharan, the Metro Man of India. and he's a stalwart at his own rights. But I can give you an example that what impressed me. I was very young at that time, just came out of IIT Delhi in a project execution site. We stuck with certain technical issue of doing a pile foundation in one of the bridge of the metro. Our design team was unable to solve the problem, and the people who are on the ground from the customer side is also not able to solve. So at that time, our head of the business who came to the project site, he's again a very technically savvy person, and he has very good connections with Mr. Sridhar. So he said, "Sir, I'm coming to the project site. Why don't you come? It will help me." So Mr. Sridharan is such a technical person, and they have got so good relation. He also came, and believe me, both of them stand in the project, gone through the drawings, understood the entire problem. Sridharan has come up with a solution, and you said a young engineer coming to this industry and saw a stalwart like that, came to site, which is not solved for almost a month struggle. He came, give a decision, give a solution to bottleneck the progress.
Right.
Now, what else you need? It's called leading from the front. And that is why you see whatever projects he has taken over, it's a Konkan Railway, any of the metros, this is a success story. He's a government official, you imagine. We sometimes criticize government, but he was kind of a stand. That example has actually motivated to continue in this core.
Okay.
Being a civil engineer. It's kind of an eye-opener that what kind of technical things can be solved,
Right.
Which is so real-life aspects rather than...
I think the right kind of leadership inspires a lot of people, right? And it also makes a great impact.
Absolutely.
Having said that, there could be our next generation of procurement leaders from our audience as well.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for anyone starting their career in project procurement?
I think for the young generation, my advice is that you guys are much smarter, much savvier, and much technology oriented than our generation. Leverage technology, leverage data. Data is the new asset. And for procurement, who deal with so much of data, don't take decision intuitively. Take data as your asset for any decision, whether right or wrong, but it backed up with data. Sometimes the decision may go wrong, but you cannot just take intuitive route because you have the data in place, you are technically more sophisticated, leverage the technology. That will make you stay relevant to the changing need of procurement function.
Right.
As you proceed further.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what skills do you think they need to pick up, right? You must have seen many youngsters in L&T as well.
I think, as I said, especially when you talk about procurement from the EPC project, EPC business, one fundamental thing I feel that since apart from material procurement, as I said, that subcontracting services is a very large component, your understanding of contract management is also a skill set necessary.
Okay.
You just cannot leave it on a one-page terms and conditions. When you're engaging with an agency for more than a year, you're married for a longer period means the travel could be more larger.
Right.
Shorter period, travels could be much lesser. So when you are doing a longer period subcontracting, your understanding of contract management and the contract clauses are very important. How did you draft your contract plays a very role. Sometimes it's a very neglected area, especially for a subcontracting and for a young generation. If you wanted to build your career in procurement, one of my advice is that, especially on an EPC procurement business, understand the whole aspects of contract management, know how to draft a contract, understand each legal aspects of a contract. Because at the end of the day, having a good contract is nothing but your risk mitigation tool. See, the contract may not be seen by anybody today, but when it leads to dispute, when you go to a court, and especially in MSME vendors, if you do not have a robust contract, you will always stuck.
Right.
You always get into a dispute and a litigation, which you don't want it to do, right?
Correct.
So better to build your contract management very strong, and as I said, that decision has to be data driven.
Right.
And use the tools. Technology is there in place. In our time, 30, 20 years, 25 years back, this is not there, that luxury. So please be more savvy towards that.
I hope our audience picks that up.
Yeah.
And before, while we were having a conversation, right, I felt you were very curious about technology, systems, how they can help you in your day-to-day activities or the organization as such, right? I felt you are very curious and trying to learn a lot of things. In general, how do you keep yourself abreast with what are the new things happening, what are the new technologies coming in? What do you do?
I think I am more to do with the conceptual level of technology. I see there is a problem. I know the domain part quite well. Because as I said you, I have been part of many functions. So I can interlink and join the dots of various functions.
Yeah.
And thereby, procurement, as I said, controls 75 to 80% of your cost structure. It will actually bring your competitiveness in the market, remember it. Because if you have a robust procurement function and a very thought through procurement function, a group of people, I think you're actually adding an edge to your competitiveness in the marketplace. And thereby your market share, right? So when I see from that angle, it's a very, very important function and many times less understood. I feel from that angle, it's a very important things to understand each and everything of this, whether it's a product line or is it for a service contract, and thereby bring everybody on board. I personally feel that my approach to this is very much collaborative, and when I talk about collaborative, I scout for social media like LinkedIn to get all these ideas, because that is a media where you get lot of things going on, lot of new things happening. Is any other company is doing differently? Is any other company using a technology in a procurement? I took clues from there, and thereby marrying my own experience or so-called the problems I am facing, and thereby come up with some ideas. I discussed with some of the ideas with you. I discussed with some of my other colleagues who are into this kind of technology-related procurement business, and throw them the idea and see that whether something can be, some new things can come up to solve those problems, and thereby bring some transformation into this supply chain management function as a whole.
Great. That's
the know. Way I look always.
I hope one day our ProSquare podcast also becomes one such channel for new information and those transformational ideas as well. I have a 4-year-old son who keeps saying that sharing is caring, right? Whenever I don't give him something, he comes to me and says sharing is caring. So I think through our podcast, that's our goal as well. Share as much industry insights, industry knowledge from leaders like you, and at the same time, we also really care about solving some of those systemic issues that are there in project execution, right? So that's the goal of our podcast, and hopefully we build on this.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you very much for your time, Sanjib. It has been a real pleasure talking to you, and it's truly a masterclass for all of us, learning about your experience, your journey, and your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandesh. Nice speaking to you.
Thank you. Thanks.